is my pleasure to be at a place where I started my journey from, University of Delhi, and I want to thank the organizers, the college authorities, the conveners, and the patrons, and also Alok for this opportunity. So primarily, I will be talking about Gen AI, focusing on healthcare. So before we jump to that, a brief background about me and what exactly I will be discussing today. So I finished my MBBS from University of Delhi. Then I did my legal training, medical legal training from NLU Bangalore. Currently, I am doing my MD in pharmacology. So basically, I'm a pharmaceutical physician working in the sector of drug discovery and vaccines. And also, I'm a digital health researcher at Koita Center for Digital Health, which is a part of Ashoka University. Post my MBBS, I was working as a consultant for the project called AI/ML in Healthcare, under the aegis of Drive, under the PMO. So proceeding further, a brief disclaimer that this session will be completely for the awareness and orientation, and I will be explicitly stating that all my statements made today will be entirely on my personal capacity, and in no way it is going to represent any of my employer, be it current or past. Additionally, in the interest of time and this particular workshop, which I particularly call as a refresher, depending upon if you have some background knowledge or it might be a beginner course if you are new into this, I will limit my talk to Gen AI for healthcare and particularly focusing on the arena of sector of digital health. So let's address the big question, right? Do you know exactly what Gen AI is, right? Anybody, anyone, if can answer, please go on. Anyone? Okay. So see, guys, before you understand what exactly is Gen AI, there is always a confusion happening that what are these terms exactly, right? We all hear a term called AI, ML, DL, and then now the Gen AI. So to basically make you guys understand, I have a basic concept from set theory where you can understand that AI is the bigger set and the smaller set inside is ML. And further, the smaller subset is DL, which is called deep learning. And further, there is something called Gen AI. So AI is exactly a technique which enables machines to mimic a kind of human behavior, whereas machine learning, just like I showed you, and also in this figure, you can see it is a subset of that AI technique, which primarily uses some kind of statistical method, making the machines capable to improve with time, with experience, right? And then further moving, DL is further a subset of the bigger set called machine learning, which actually makes the computation of multi-layer neural network feasible, right? So this is how things are. Moving further in today's talk, I will be discussing some few more terms. So just wanted to give you a heads up because I'm a physician. So you need to understand something called digital health. So these are primarily various technologies and platforms which are engaging in some form of consumer. So if you try to understand consumers for a healthcare industry is always patients or you can say normal public, but the products can be related to wellness, lifestyle, any drugs. But the point here I want to focus is that mostly the digital health products does not have any backing of strong clinical evidence, right? Whereas if we move to digital medicine, then it is a kind of software or a hardware product with our any kind of software or medical device that is actually delivered as a therapeutic intervention. And that therapeutic intervention can be used to either prevent, treat, or manage the disease. So a lot of examples just like I gave, but they have a component of gamification which you can focus. Moving further, there is an interesting analogy I want you to see and a comparison. See, on the left-hand side, you have cost of arithmetic, right? We all remember that there was a day when abacus was there, then computers came in, calculators and whatnot, then the supercomputer. And the power of calculation and arithmetic power, computational power increased a lot and cost decreased significantly. The same kind of curve you can expect in the cost of prediction. Why I am talking about prediction? Because in healthcare, AI or ML or DL or be it Gen AI, the most important use case that as doctors or as clinicians, we want to focus is something called prediction, right? Everybody wants to know that if I land up in a hospital with some etiology or with some diagnosis, what is going to be my prognosis, right? If I take this drug, what is the probability that I'm going to get a cure out of it? So if you see, the same Miller curve is happening here, and the trend has started changing from 2015. So almost like now we are in 2024, 9 years, the significant cost reduction has been there. Now, to give you another example to make you understand what exactly is deep learning, right? So, just like if you remember, I told you that deep learning is a subset of machine learning where exactly there are a lot of neural networks. So, imagine in this way that this is a deep learning model in which we give it an image, and actually, that image is an image of a cat, right? Then that model gives us that cat answer is 0.97. It means 97% of the time it is reporting it as a cat. 2% of time it is saying it is something else. But 1% is that it is predicting it as a dog. So this is one of the example where actually with the help of neural network, we made the machine understand that how a cat looks like, how a dog looks like, and then we give it an image to identify or to recognize that whether it is a cat or a dog. And this is the result, something of this sort. Now, to raise your curiosity, I want to address few important pointers. Number one, people say that AI is called artificial intelligence. I preferentially call it augmented intelligence. So what does it exactly means? It means that when we talk about artificial intelligence, it seems as if it is something artificial and it is not a natural phenomenon. Whereas if you treat it as a augmented intelligence, then you will take it as a compensatory or a complementing factor along with your day-to-day activity. But then the question comes that is always AI better than us humans? The answer is no, always not. But most of the time, as per the training is evolving, it is evolving. And with the people like Elon Musk and OpenAI founders and Google and big tech giants working in this direction, I hope you all have heard about a term called AGI, right? So that day is also not far in which like models will start behaving as human beings. But in today's talk we'll be focusing also that how it is going to differ. So currently if I tell you that where exactly AI is failing, the answer is the areas where there is lack of training data. Because some of you mentioned that you are very much interested into data science, and most of you come from a background of biomedical sciences or life sciences, so you will understand easily that data is most important thing. It is like oil for a machine. Similarly, data is the similar analogy can be drawn for a model. So one is lack of training data. So if you don't have the right set of data, then you can't expect the AI models to come with that set of result. Second is bias in data. So let's understand what exactly is bias in data. Let's imagine in this way that I run a bank and I developed a model through the help of some computer scientists and some software engineers, which can predict that if I give a loan to someone, what is the probability that the loan will be paid back on time, right? Then I can calculate what is going to be my defaulters, right? And based on that model, I will charge the percentage of interest accordingly. For example, there is a high probability that this person is not going to pay back me loan on time. Then I will charge a larger interest compared to someone whose track record as per the model is he will be paying back timely. So imagine in this way, I work in SBI and I develop this model for prediction that what will be the loan repayment probability. But that model has been trained on Indian data. People from Odisha, people from Delhi, people from Andhra, all data points have been taken into and the model has been trained. Now imagine in this way, the same model is used for a Singapore-based bank, which primarily deals with Singapore population. Then there will be bias coming in because the reason is that the model has been trained on Indian data set and we are trying to get the result on Singapore population. So this is one of those examples where bias is very important. Another example I want to focus is that there is a model called robot called Sophia, which I will be showing you today. So Sophia was asked, which is called as first humanoid, means human plus robot. So humanoid comes up. So it was asked that, Sophia, how we can eradicate cancer from the globe? The answer was, kill all the human beings, right? So the answer is actually correct. It's not incorrect, but ethically, if you see, the answer is not correct, right? So by killing all the human beings, definitely you can eradicate cancer from humans, right? But the cons are there which we need to look into. Then another thing is that general versus narrow. So to understand what exactly is general versus narrow, for example, I will show you something today during the hands-on session, that how I personally use ChatGPT for multiple works in my day-to-day life, starting from because I am a MD resident, so I have to write research papers. I am a pharmaceutical physician, so I have to work for drug companies. I'm also doing some consultancy project with some health startups and big MNCs also. So I have to do consultancy projects also. So how I do that, and how that AI sometimes gives very generalized answers, which I need to narrow down based upon my speciality as a SME. So SME is the subject matter expert. So imagine in this way that I asked ChatGPT that how do you prescribe paracetamol? So it will simply say that prescribe paracetamol has to be prescribed at this dose with this repetition, like take it once a day or twice a day. But as a doctor, I need to give a very customized answer. So there narrow down principle comes in. Then today we will be discussing that how exactly success lies ahead. So we'll be discussing few use cases, and also I will be showcasing you how the data points are important and how models are being developed. Now, the hot topic in the town, I think it's no more that much hot, but I still remember back in 2022 December, ChatGPT, the GPT-3 primarily was launched, and it took the whole world by storm. And the reason there is so much awareness now, I personally believe, is that people started using AI in their day-to-day lives with the coming of GPT, that is a ChatGPT from OpenAI, right? I hope all of you, like 80-90%, or I personally believe 100% of the audience listening today must have used in some format. Now let's try to understand how the evolution has happened. So the evolution has been very fast. If you try to understand current journal research paper, similarly that goes with the AI models also. This is another diagram which talks about that how the progress has happened over the years, right? Some memes, but to understand these memes, I hope you have used some way, right? So to give you a perspective, a lot of you are writing nowadays mails. For example, I write a lot of my mails. The brief stanza I give to ChatGPT, it actually puts up a very polite, very sophisticated, a very corporate standard mail, keeping in mind all the pointers I have asked it to follow, which I will be demonstrating in the hands-on session today. Uh, Now the big question comes, a lot of you might have been using ChatGPT, but the problem is that ChatGPT, which is one kind of generative AI tool, does not give references, right? For example, today in our hands-on session, we'll be seeing that if we ask GPT to write a research paper or a review article, it will write. But if you ask it that where exactly this line has been quoted from, for example, it says that X drug is better than Y by 20% in terms of safety. So most of the time you will find it will come up with something which does not exist actually. So that we call it as hallucination. Just like humans hallucinate for something which in reality does not exist, same thing happens here as well. Now, a lot of you might be thinking that Dr. Hara, there is a lot of talk in the town that tech layoffs are happening with AI coming up. People are saying AI will have more jobs. Generative AI, prompt engineering is going to have more jobs. But similarly, AI is able and capable to do a lot of white collar as well as blue collar jobs. So how do you think? So these are two figures. One is day before OpenAI. So if you see what was exactly happening, more time was going in coding, right? Compared to after ChatGPT coming up, code generation has become very easy task. But now more time for a developer is going for debugging, because whenever you generate something, always there will be something which is happening wrong and you need to correct it. Now, this is something I want all of you to understand, right? Every time we get a resource or a tool, it's very important how we use it. For example, humans developed guns for their own defense and protection from the wild animals. Later on, we started having wars and fights, and the civic code was imposed. So similarly, you need to understand, you start use AI tools, be it ChatGPT. It is one of those examples that I for which I have quoted it, for your day-to-day activity, for your business, for your career, for as an assistant. But if you start using it for tricking, for checking that if it is doing correctly or not, then you are wasting your time. And this is, I'm telling very frankly, for example, most of the time I speak to my colleagues, my juniors or senior, most of the time I see using them for the second option where the crowd is, right? So I will strongly suggest you better focus it on the right things. Now, moving further, there is a term called LLMs, right? That is called large language models. So, what exactly are large language models? So, we need to understand that always, whenever a model is being trained, that will be trained on something called data points. So, that data can come from multiple resources. One resource is a book. Second is a kind of image. Third is kind of a speech. Then there is something called, from data also, there is something called structured data, and another thing is called unstructured data. To give you an example of structured data, electronic health record are structured data, whereas patient prescriptions, which are written, handwritten, are mostly called unstructured data. Then 3D signals is also one of the data point, and there will be a lot more which I will be discussing in further slides. So a model is being trained on that data point, and further that model is adapting as per the task that is being given. For example, somebody is asking a question, then that model will only use that training data point to answer that question. There might be some task for sentiment analysis. For example, elections are going to happen. If I ask the model that how do you think that how much polarization is happening, or how much voting is going to be in favor of this party, or what is the sentiment for female candidates to win the election, something of that sort. So a lot of tasks that can be done by a model using a multiple data set, but through a very large set of language, that is called a large language model, called as LLMs. But slowly we are moving into a direction called as multimodal models. So to give you example, GPT-4, which is the latest GPT, is one of those example of multimodal model. I don't know how many of you have tried GPT-4, but it is a paid version. And similarly, Google has something called Gemini. So Alok, in the introduction today, also touched about it. So Gemini seems very promising. I will also share a demo video today, but there is a lot of competition and you can say ripple happening in the tech ecosystem around this. Next thing I want to focus is this research paper. I think there is one PhD candidate, some of the senior candidates also in the audience who are currently in the industry. So if you start understanding that how life science people, how healthcare background people can start using AI, so a lot will depend on how you build models for having a very generalistic approach towards medical AI, right? So this is a beautiful paper. You can have a read. It is published in Nature. Next is a big thing that happened recently in the month of January itself, is that AMI. So AMI, AMIE, has been launched by Google, and they claim that it can, to a great extent, I will not say replace, but to a great extent can help the physicians in the day-to-day activity, and especially the general physicians, not getting into a specialist level. So this web diagram, what I want to focus is that there are two color codes. One is this pink color for AMI. PCP stands for primary care physician. So if you try to understand where exactly AMI is performing better and where PCPs are performing better. So AMI is performing pretty cool on the empathy side, and there are two verticals on this side. If you see, there is a specialist physician. So for example, to make you understand, I will give you a case study. For example, you are a physician, primary care physician, and a patient comes to you saying, sir, I developed fever for last 2 days, what should I do, right? Then the same question is also given to AMI. So the same patient goes to a PCP, that is primary care physician, and the same patient is being monitored by AMI, that is a tool developed by Google. Now the answers and the management protocol comes up. Now we are seeing it from two perspectives. One is from patient perspective, and secondly from a specialist perspective. So this is the result. If you see, AMI is performing pretty accurately in terms of diagnosis. In terms of management, also, it is performing pretty good. In terms of escalation, that is referral. For example, fever seems a very normal thing, right? But sometimes it might be Japanese encephalitis or a brain hemorrhagic fever, which requires urgent attention. So that escalation is something, it requires a strong more evidence and more data generation. But otherwise, if you see everywhere, it is performing almost better or equivalent to a primary care physician. So hope you understand the value that Gen AI has capability in terms of medical diagnosis and acting as an augmenting tool for physicians. So let's see some demos. So we'll be jumping to see some demos. Then I'll be making you a little bit understand that how these things we can use in our day-to-day life and in our healthcare. So we'll see how Dalle is being used, a brief demo. Dalle is basically a image generation software, right? So actually, Dalle is a product of OpenAI. You can access it through the paid model only. So what we demonstrated is Dalle 3. So moving to the next demo, we will be seeing how GPT-4 works, a brief demo of that. So guys, I hope some of you must have used GPT, Chat GPT. So Chat GPT is GPT-3. So moving further, now we'll see something called custom GPT. So before we jump to the custom GPT thing, see custom GPT, what exactly it means is that there is a GPT which you want to customize as per your needs. For example, currently if you see the Chat GPT, if say Alok uses it, Rashmi ma'am uses it, and I use it, if we ask it the same question, the answer are almost the same. But uh, if I want to make a custom GPT in which I want the Chat GPT to answer the things in the way I want, for example, without having the complete knowledge. Let's imagine in this way, my day-to-day activity is around drugs, right? Medical drugs. So I give Chat GPT a module of say 5,000 pages in which all drug names with all their side effects, everything is there, and I feed it. Now that custom GPT will only answer from that 5,000 page PDF that I gave. But the Chat GPT will answer from the open source data point it has, be it Wikipedia, be it all research papers and whatnot. Right. So this is one example of custom GPT. Let's see a brief demo, and it has a very wide scope if you want to use. So this is something multiple people have created their own custom GPTs, and custom GPTs currently only available for paid subscribers. Like otherwise, for example, normal users are not able to generate their own custom GPTs. So for example, somebody has created Cafe Finder, right? So if you go and use it, you will be able to get answers from this custom GPT. Somebody has created fantasy football. For example, my colleague is preparing for USMLE. So USMLE is a exam for getting into US by getting their medical license, right? Once you study in India, you get Indian medical license. So he has trained the Chat GPT on few books of USMLE, and it helps it to learn as a tutor. So this is one of another example I wanted to give. Let's see more. So here I want to focus, the person is using ChatGPT 4 because it is a paid version, right? Just like I mentioned, the capability only exists in GPT 4. So the concept here that I want to focus is that there is a concept called garbage in and garbage out. All the AI models or the GPTs or any kind of algorithm you want to develop, the kind of data you train on that decides the kind of output you are going to get. So while creating custom GPTs, you have to be very particular that what kind of data points you are feeding the model, because you have to be very sure the answers will be coming from those data point only. So here the person will be using some kind of data point to create it, and further he will configure, like you will give some name, you'll write a description, you'll give some instructions. So this is advertising. I'll not go deeper, but this is something you can explore. AMI is pretty interesting. There is not a very good demo, but you get a brief understanding. I think that is happening. I think it's a wrong video. If you see, it is just like a chatbot to a great extent, where you write something and it is replying. uh, Last year in 2023 I was working for Flipkart for developing their chatbot. It's already launched, but I must say Google has done a fair good job here.
Is Amy free?
Hello.
Hello, is Amy free? Amy, this chatbot?
No, the answer is no.
Okay.
See, down the line, it might have. Currently, it's in the form of a research paper and it's not yet into very public, you can say. Just like ChatGPT is very much open to public, I think it will take some more time. So getting back, this is also pretty interesting area. All of you who are going to work down the line, say 2 3 years in the corporate industry, I think products like Amy will be making a lot noise. Uh, if good or bad, I don't know. I can't comment at this stage. But let's go to Gemini. Here we'll be focusing on one use case of Gemini, that is to extract data points from scientific literature. We have PhD people, we have people who are going to finish their bachelor's. They'll be soon needing to publish papers, and also you need to do a lot of ROL, review of literature, right? So let's see how Gemini is going to help you here. This is very important that how you write a prompt. Alok has organized another session where you'll be taught about how to write prompts. So this is very going to be a game changer skill, especially with the prompt engineering coming up, how you interact with the machines, because that is going to be the new language. So I hope some of you who are going to do your PhDs and write beautiful papers going to be published in high impact journals will be some way using these kind of tools and saving a lot of man hours. Moving further, this is something which is very close to my heart. Before playing it, I want to give you a brief background. Uh, yeah. So the brief background is that we'll be seeing a demo of something called Clinical Decision Support System, CDSS. So a lot of you might not be aware what exactly it is. So you heard about AMI, right, which I talked about. But AMI is a very new thing. A lot of research needs to be done. A lot of validation needs to be done. But there is something called CDSS, which exists more than now 15 years. A lot of tech development is happening in that space. So what exactly is CDSS? CDSS is actually something which aids doctor to take some decisions by giving some drop downs, by giving some clues. So for example, if you visit a private health setup, say Apollo or Max, whenever you enter your data in their electronic health record, you will easily see drop downs coming up. For example, I type in the diagnosis thing FE, so it will automatically drop down as fever. Or if I type P, it will automatically drop down pyrexia, pyelonephritis, something of that sort. Same goes when I type a prescription for drugs. Like I type tab.p, it will automatically pop up PCM, or it will pop up as pantoprazole. This is one of the small example, but CDSS over a period of time has developed a lot. The demo I'm going to show you is by Philips. So here they will be showcasing how their ECG monitors in the ICU are changing the game, especially for prediction. Let's see. So HT, what exactly it talks about? Whenever we get a heart attack or something, there is something change in the happening in the ECG called as HT segment elevation or depression. So a very shortly, you can get a very glimpse idea without taking much time of doctors. These are all your ECG reads based on the body. So this is another example through which a lot of change is happening across the globe, and primarily, if I talk about in healthcare, it is very important. Getting back, let's get back to something we already saw. We saw Dalle, right? So you must be saying, Dr. Hara, how image generation or how Dalle can be used in healthcare. So recently, it's like today is we're just ending post Republic, and pre-Republic we had this news. Merck is a very big pharma company. They have collaborated with another small company which is using Dalle as a software for drug discovery. And this is another example of using generative AI to identify small molecules of pharma and getting it for a conversion to lead molecules and doing further clinical research. Then, for the next few slides, we'll be focusing on a report which has been recently published by Deloitte. I hope you all understand that how the big consultancy firm reports are being prepared, and we'll be discussing some of their results. So, 75% of leading healthcare companies, if I talk about across globe, are currently experimenting or attempting to use generative AI. So this talks about the kind of impact in 2024 life sciences and healthcare is going to have from generative AI. If I go to the next stat, it talks about 82% are currently having any planning, or they're currently using in some kind to implement in the governance setup. And 92% of the executive rank leaders are very overwhelmed, especially seeing the kind of promise generative AI can bring in, especially to improve the efficiency. If you remember, I showed you the CDSs, right? You can imagine a cardiologist managing 50 patients in an ICU and getting beeps after beeps. It's very difficult for him to understand those numbers. But if you get a graph, you can easily attempt that what kind of drugs needs to be given, what time it should be given, what kind of intervention that needs to be done, right? And 65% of leaders see very promise, especially in quicker decision making. We saw the example of CDSs and AMI that talks about that how fast we should react as doctors or as pharmaceutical leaders, right? Next, this is something which are interlocking healthcare. For example, there is a labor shortage, there are lack of doctors, nurses. There is always a challenge on profitability. A lot of corporate hospitals are under losses, and value is worsening over time. And also, clinicians are burnouting. For example, recently in NHS in UK, there is a lot of strike happening in the junior doctor and nurses because they are complaining of burnout. So here, AI will come to your save, and it will help you to increase the efficiency, to decrease unnecessary workload, to increase the value, and also to decrease cost. As cost decreases, profitability automatically increases. If I talk about how AI has improved over a period of time, so this has been the evolution. And I focused on this term in my initial opening remark that soon we will move towards. Currently, we are here, conversational AI, and soon with automated cars, we'll be moving to autonomous system. And if we come with the feature of AGI, that is artificial general intelligence, nobody knows what will be the next benchmark. Generative AI, we are already there. Now, what can be the differentiated functions of GenAI primarily if I talk about in healthcare? So there are a lot of things, right? It can be used to accelerate things in which the productivity can be accelerated. For example, documentation, right? Whenever you visit a hospital, you need to, doctors need to create a lot of document that can be fastened up. Then compilation of lot of things. For example, we talked about Gemini, right? We saw how it gathered a lot of data points just at a fraction of second, right? The second thing where Gen AI is going to be very important in healthcare is automate. There are a lot of codes. I don't know how many of you are aware of, but there is something called ICD and DSM codes and WHO codes for various diagnosis and various treatment. That can be completely automated. To give you an example, creating, I think you must are aware that record summarization is one thing, procedure writing, all that can be created at a very fast scale. Most important, we have a session coming up in near future in this particular workshop, in which a professor from IIIT Delhi will be talking to you guys about personalized medicine, right? So there Gen AI is going to play a very important role. For example, a lot of time when we visit hospital and doctor talks about something, doctor is not having time to explain it to us, right? There Gen AI will help to classify and simplify the jargons, and also it will translate based upon patient's need from clinical as well as non-clinical documents. And last but not the least, to simulate what exactly it means. For example, when I got trained as a physician back in 2014, 2015, I used to dissect the human body in my first year. At that time, what used to happen is that there used to be a limited amount of dead bodies available in medical colleges. But now imagine 3D models are coming up. We can work on those models. Students can read, surgeons can practice. In IIIT and IIT Delhi, they have come up with a robotics lab in which surgeons can practice on simulation models, right? So that is also another scope of Gen AI. Then this is apologies, it is a very, you can say, cumbersome slide, but I wanted to give you a understanding that the kind of impact Gen AI can bring in. I will share the link of this Deloitte report. You can have a look in your free time if you want to. Now let's understand what is the future exactly and how the future of Gen AI will look like. So the future is going to be interoperability. What exactly it means? It means that multiple stakeholders need to have the same data set, and that data point needs to be interoperable. For example, you visit in 2012 Apollo Hospital for dengue treatment. In 2015, you visit Max Hospital for, say, any abdominal pain issue. Then you visited in 2019 AIMS Trauma Center for having a road traffic accident. And now, today, you are landing up in a railway hospital, say for a treatment of asthma. Now, the problem is all the data points, all your patient record are available, but they're available in different healthcare institutions. There is not a centralized interoperable platform. So that thing is the future. We need to have an interoperable platform, and slowly as we are moving towards national digital health mission, that will be solved. Secondly, level playing field. As you know, there are big players, there are smaller players. That is also a cause of concern. And then creativity, and also having a very personalized healthcare approach, just like I mentioned. There are a lot of areas of opportunity. I have classified it into three headings. One is providers, then there are payers, then there are lab people. A lot of you will be going to pathology side of settings, so you can explore that side. Otherwise, payers are fairly administrative, operational, clinical, all those stuff can be done. And on the provider side, I think care delivery and care navigation is going to be the benchmark. Just give me a second. This is another slide where I wanted to focus that how prioritization framework is going to work. Let's take some few questions if you have, guys. Any questions? Okay, I think there are no questions. So this is another example how trustworthy AI looks like. So in my recent talk, which I gave at IIIT, hello.
Yeah, Hara, am I audible? Hello.
Yeah. Any questions, Alok?
Yeah, hi. Yeah, Hara. So there is someone, Ashni has raised her hand to ask a question. Ashni, are you audible to you?
Yeah, please, Ash.
Yes, you are. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
giving
please
me
go ahead.
the. I just wanted to ask that since we are talking about all these models like AIM, we talked about that, and we talked about other GPT-4, and these models are coming up and they're developing as we speak. But they're all pretty advanced models and used in professional settings, if I'm not wrong, and they are requiring an access with like you talked about localized databases that we can create to make the AI personalized so that it can give us answers that are personal to us. But even that requires a certain level of access, monetary access. So, is there anything that we might be able to practice on so that we can get some sort of a insight into how these things are actually working and how credible the database is actually therein.
Yeah, a good question, I must say. So that brings to the basic point that whole the globe is suffering that equality of opportunity, right? Somebody is born in a poor family, he's not having that level of access to education and stuff. But to answer your question exactly, I will say we can start with free resources that are available, and then based upon the need, we can have subscriptions also. For example, I will not recommend everyone to purchase the subscription of GPT-4. It costs around easily 2000 rupees per month, right? If you're not using it up to that level, then I think it's not worth it. But yes, if you are going to use it, or you can do a contribution from your colleagues and use the same subscription simultaneously. For example, I know a few people who are using Dalle for medical illustrations, and for one illustration, they charge from their client easily 500 to 700 rupees. And you can imagine through Dalle, they are creating easily 100 plus images per day. So the costing and the output is huge, and they're making good profit out of it, right? So it all depends that how you're going to use it, and can you get a business model out of it where exactly you can get the costing from the profit margin as a freelancer or whatever you can call it off. But yes, there is a disparity. I'm completely aligned on this fact. Any more questions, or we can continue?
Right, just one more question.
Yeah, yeah,
In the
please.
beginning of the session only, we saw the hexagon data visualization that was there, that compared the performances of PCP versus AMI,
Mhm.
as in how they're dealing with patients. But the only question that maybe it's because I'm too naive, but I couldn't really relate to how an AI was doing better than physicians who are
Doctors.
trained on hand. Yeah,
See, I will tell you one thing. As you get trained as a human being, you develop a lot of experiences. Okay. For example, I will give my example. So when I was trained as a MBBS doctor, I was told that when fever happens, then it can be a dengue, it can be a malaria, it can be a brain tumor. Now imagine I'm sitting in a OPD, a patient comes up, a old patient saying that, "Beta, मेरे को बुखार हो रहा है," right? And then I start thinking of other questions I need to ask. But the model is trained on data point, which is very huge and large data point, like 1 lakh or say 1 million patient data set. Now that can has a very high probability scoring. So the initial answers of the ME model was better, but as we moved to very specialized question, then the answers started performing poorer. But the initial question, the results were better. The reason being simple, that it has got very large data points. So you can imagine in this way, a doctor can hardly see, say, 1 lakh patients or say maximum 1 CR patient if on a whole life care or a whole lifespan. But this model has been trained on 30 CR patients. Now you imagine the data point it has, the kind of experience it has, right?
right. Thank you so much.
Yep. I think we'll proceed further. Yep. Getting back. So I talked about ethical AI. So this is a framework. We need to ensure that whatever we build is ethical, it is trustworthy. The 5-part approach, because end of the day, you will develop. I know some of in the audience are people who are working in corporate. So you have to implement AI. So to implement AI, you need to understand that how deployment is important. So this slide talks about that part. Then, because we talked about Deloitte, so I just wanted to lighten up your mood. Some of you might be thinking of doing a MBA or getting into consultancy in Deloitte, PCG, PwC, or McKinsey. So I hope you understand that you will get a lot of opportunity to move to a lot of places. In my consultancy career, I have moved to different places, and it's a good thing. But the point is that you'll have a very hectic work-life balance, and that's where this meme also talks about, right? That in the lockdown also the consultants were working when whole world was sitting at home. Now moving further, getting back to the main topic, how the future physicians looks like. So I will not go much deep, but just touch upon few points. So today's physician are morely, if you say, not that much empathy or that much time is being given, but the driving of change that is happening. For example, some of you asked, right, why the AI models are performing better, because they are trained on more data point. But when then the human doctors will go, so the human doctors are going to stay for sure. The only reason I can feel of is that human doctors are never going to be replaced because of empathy reasons, and secondly, the kind of validation they can have. But yes, assistants, they will use AI for sure. So going forward, partnership with the patient is going to be utmost important. For example, doctor will not take random decisions on their say. They have to involve patients in their decision-making process. And slowly we are going to move towards a personalized care of approach. For example, today you develop fever. All of you, if you visit any hospital, are going to be prescribed 650 mg paracetamol 3 times a day or SOS, right? But down the line, for sure, I can say that some of you will be given 625, some of you will be given 641. But how that is going to be possible? That is going to be possible when drug printing, 3D printing starts happening in India. Then you'll start getting very customized. For example, we all eat a lot of cuisines, right? We use a different amount of salts. Similarly, we'll be using different amount of drugs. Futures physicians are going to be very tech savvy. This slide talks about that. You can have a look. Now, just like in the initial slide, I talked about that in healthcare also there are a lot of data points, but I did not show you in healthcare where exactly the data points are coming from. So there are research papers, there is electronic medical health record, wearable, we all are wearing some kind of watches, some kind of braces, all that. Then there are insurance medical claims, patient registry, these are actually transplant registry. Then there is remote monitoring happening. I think you must have seen that CDS's video in which remote monitoring is happening. And there is engine data, which is like Google or Bard or something. And then there is family history. So this is talk of the town, that is called big data. And it is very important how exactly that data point is coming up. This is something a lot of you will be definitely going to corporate setup. So big tech companies are focusing a lot. If you talk about it, is this size of market, $11 trillion. And what exactly is making this big tech companies to move into healthcare? One is consumer demand. The COVID pandemic has made the patients understand that there is a very gap between demand and supply, and easy to access to services. And there needs to be a Swiggy and Zomato kind of setup, 2 minutes grocery delivery. So why can't I get a 2 minutes a doctor for my consultancy? So consumer demand is one of the systems driving force. Second is fragmented system. I hope you remember I talked about you visiting 4 hospitals at 4 different timeline, lack of interoperability. So that our healthcare is currently fragmented. Third, high administrative burden. For example, I as a doctor spend 20 to 30% of my daily time only for administrative work, like filling papers, writing bills, signing forms, and all that. So that also needs to be decreased. And fourth, as a country, we are the most populous in the world. I know we should be proud of, and simultaneously, we should start thinking that how this demographic pressure can be a big con for us if we don't go in the right direction. I just want to show something. I hope you all know CoWIN platform, right? So we all used it during the COVID vaccination. So one thing I want to focus is that on the left-hand side, we have COVID vaccination card, which is a physical card in US. And US is thought to be one of the most developed country, globally superpower, tech giant of the world, right? But here in India, we developed a very good platform app, and if you see, we have everything digitally available. So this like answers your question, Tanya, that yes, government is taking step in this direction. CoWIN is one of those examples. But definitely tech giants will have their own products, but government will match up to them. For example, the recent ONDC platform. Next thing I wanted to talk about is National Digital Health Mission. That is also something driven by government, right? So National Digital Health Mission has something called ABHA. So ABHA IDs, just like your Aadhaar IDs, are coming up, and a lot of development is happening on that scale. Moving further, we're just into the last phase of our talk today. So I will be focusing, because we are talking about healthcare. So healthcare has got a very big chunk called pharma and its R&D. So how Gen AI is important there. So we'll be just trying to understand. I hope a few of the audience are also from pharma and life science background. So please watch out for the next 5 to 10 minutes. So as we know that where exactly AI will fit in. So manufacturing setup, we can manage a lot of things for quality analysis, for predictive maintenance, for handling the supply chain. In the commercial setup, for handling the pricing component, for key opinion leader management, for also analyzing the patient level of data set, and also operational part like HR, finance, those things can be taken care of. This is one of my favorite slides of the last 10 years. Like Alok also loves it, I know for sure, that whenever we target a drug molecule, actually it takes easily 15 to 20 years to get into it from bench to bedside, right? So if you try to understand, there is a lead ID molecule. So there we have like more than 10,000 molecules. And from that, we are selecting 500 over the next phase. And slowly we boil down to one molecule, and drug research happens there, the clinical phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 study. So it is very costly. So AI is currently playing a very huge role. That is one of the examples, like how we were able to develop a COVID vaccine in such a short time. De novo techniques, in silico techniques are happening. Some of you might be aware of various drug phases. So here I have just tried to summarize that what are various phases of R&D of drug development and how AI can individually contribute there, right? If you try to see, it is decreasing the time by using a lot of in silico model for helping in trial designing. And also once the drug is launched, it is helping in real world evidence generation and studies, and also in pharmacovigilance studies. Now, some of you, I think there is a lady here who is from, I think, from Manipal, if I'm correct. She's doing her PhD, so I think it will be pretty interesting for her. So, lot of early drug discovery are happening, right? Merck, I told you guys that it has collaborated with one of the AI companies for using Dalle-like features for drug development. So this slide talks about that how we can use it for lead identification, optimization, hit identification, and finally validating it. Last but not the least, DMTA cycle I wanted to touch upon. It means design, make, test, and analyze. So this is one of the important slides for the life science people, that how AI is going to transform DMTA cycles. Clinical trials, a lot of you will be doing some short-term diploma courses and will be working in the pharma industry as some PV associate or clinical trial monitoring persons. So for you guys, AI is going to be very important in all these wheels that I have tried to mention in the portion of clinical trials. Moving further, always we have regulatory concerns, right? So regulatory insights are very important, especially as you know that drugs, once being discovered, they need to be approved by a respective body. For example, in the US, we have FDA. In India, we have CDSCO, and what many other organizations, right? This slide talks about real world data generation, and QL management is also one other feature. I'll just have a 2 minutes quick walk over that how I'm personally using AI. So these are my current and past collaborations happening. So last year, we wrote a paper using ML for genomic surveillance of COVID. Just to give you a hint, that we predicted that how COVID surge can happen, right? 2 months ahead of time. So these are our prediction. These are actually our caseloads. So we did something, and it is currently published in Frontiers in Genetics. It got featured in the Hindu. Then it got featured by the Prasar Bharati Vigyan Prasar also. Then we developed an app at IIIT Delhi called Wash Karo, which was primarily a coronavirus awareness app. Further, now we made it for tuberculosis. Currently, I'm also working on something called developing research protocols and CDSS tools for chronic conditions I mentioned, like cardiovascular diseases and hypertension and diabetes. Uh, I think you must be remembering the CDSS tool I talked about, remote monitoring. So Dozy is India's first AI startup company using AI for remote monitoring. So they have a tagline called Her Bed, Dozy Bed. So it is a small device. You insert it inside your mattress, and it will monitor your vitals. So we can easily convert a normal bed to ICU bed, and it was very helpful during COVID. Then few research papers and patents that through AI, like with the help of this technology, we have worked upon. So we have a patent on optimizing drug absorption, especially for cancer cells using AI and ML. And another work we have is that we have developed IoT device for breast cancer detection. So this is something I wanted to focus. Before we conclude and we round up the talk and open the discussion for any kind of questions, I want to mention to all of you that think yourself as stem cells. You all come from a biology background, so a stem cell can mature into anything. It has got a pluripotent capacity. So because change is the only constant in life, so your ability to adapt to those changes will definitely going to determine how success you will be. And as I'm talking about success, I just want to focus that please be more ethical, and money will come automatically. It is a byproduct, but please focus on the ethical part of reason. If you remember in the initial talk, I mentioned about Sophia, who told that kill all human beings, cancer will be out and eradicated. So this is a small picture of Sophia, and this is the creator David Hansen Jr. And he talks about that don't fear AI. I know a lot of you might be thinking, Dr. Hara, AI can do this, do that, but where exactly my job will go? But please be rest assured, upskill timely, and AI is going to augment, not going to replace. And I think you will be realizing Alok is here, I'm here, and a lot of good folks are here. The reason for having this picture is that this space and upskilling is very important. Please attend more workshops, please be active, and you will learn a lot. This is a picture from my last year AIML winter school. And this is my professor, Dr. Sanjeev Arora from Princeton. I've learned a lot from him. And here in this December 2023, we attended Health, and it is also near your campus at IIT Delhi. These are my associations and collaborations. Any questions you have, if you are not comfortable asking here, or you want to reach out to me after this talk, you can shoot me a mail or write to me on a LinkedIn, sending a hi. I'm happy to answer them. These are the current resources that we have used today. Thanks for that.